Hello, Chris. Thank you very much for joining me for this interview today. I know as a copywriting apprentice, you're a very busy man, so really appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I found this quick time frame here to step out of my day and talk a little bit about my journey, because there's certainly lessons I've learned that might be able to help somebody that's just starting out to kickstart their own progress and start to see quicker results than I did. Because there's certainly lessons I've learned and mistakes I've made that others could benefit from. So I'm happy to share my knowledge with you today. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So the reason I've invited you is because in the wins channel, I saw a $1K win from you for 8 emails, which I
Mm-hmm.
know doesn't take a very long amount of time. So I'd like you to go into depth on that later, how you got the client.
Yep.
Yeah, what was the process for all of that? But for now, I would like to hear your backstory. So, what was your life like before joining the real world?
Yeah, I guess I was just any other young man. I was very lost. I didn't really know where my life would take me, and I really didn't know what the fastest route to success could be and to like personal growth, because I'm not from a very rich background. I'm not from a very my I've always lived an okay life. I haven't been in like total poverty, but I've been like sort of middle to lower end, somewhere in that spectrum. So I've never had anybody in my life who could give me like advice or show me the way on how to really live a fulfilling life as a man. And I was certainly quite plugged in with my beliefs and my understanding of how money can be made. I was very much aware of the fact that, I'm supposed to exchange my personal time at a very large extent for money, and I should get paid like $8, $10 an hour, and then I get paid hourly. And my mind didn't fully grasp like how money can be made online. So I was very naive, and I was very unaware of how money can be actually generated online, and how it could provide you with a level of freedom that can grant you a much more fulfilling and happier life as a man.
Hmm. And how did you find out about the real world?
So this was this was a long time ago. I think I started following Tate like back in June last year already, or July. He collaborated with another guy I was watching, and then I saw like the announcement that back then it was called Hustlers University 2.0, right? It was announced, it was coming out, and it had crypto, right? So because crypto was popping off last year, I saw the shiny object, as I'm no doubt many others did as well. So I was like, okay, you know, for as little as $50 a month, right, I could start to learn a bit about crypto, and maybe I could like make a lot more money, because I heard some of the wins that people had in crypto, like 5-10x's in weeks, which obviously no is not the reality anymore, and that's not how money can be generated. And I didn't even grasp that is like an insane amount of money to make in such a short time frame. But obviously that's what attracted me, so I joined because of crypto. And I guess this is where the first lesson came in, because as soon as you join the real world, like you get introduced to like quadrants based on your time and your cash availability. And I wasn't certainly the guy who was supposed to dabble with crypto based on the amount of cash I had at hand. But my ego got in the way, so I was like, no, I'll make this work. I'll make money with crypto. Obviously, I didn't even listen to the professors really, because the professors told me in the chats, they were like, if you don't have a consistent cash flow, don't do crypto, right? But my ego was like, no, I'll get the 10x, and then I'll like I'll move forward from there. Obviously, didn't listen to the professors, made some dumb calls, lost it all, and then crypto didn't really work out for me.
Yeah. So, you went into copywriting after, or did you try something else?
So actually, this was funny. I did my I guess dream, or my a step in my life that I wanted to partake in before I picked a career, was that I wanted to travel around the world, because I've never really been a well-traveled guy. I hadn't really been to a lot of places and experienced different cultures, and this was a longing I had like deep within me as a young man. So I dabbled around with crypto. I went abroad October last year, so this is 2021 October. I continued to dabble with crypto while I was away, but obviously I didn't really have the time there. My attention was so distracted that I didn't really hone in on the money making aspect of it and actually understanding crypto and understanding the fundamentals, so I could have a better grasp on what I'm actually doing with my money. Obviously, I lost everything, and then I came to a realization about 1.5 month or a month and a half into my trip that when I return, I'm still going to be the same man. I'm still going to be that exact same guy who has no skills, who has no value to offer to the world, who can't make money, who's not free, who's probably going to have to be dependent on somebody else. Go to pick a 9-to-5 probably, or go to university, or do something for somebody else, or do what society has told them. And I'm still going to be lost, and I'm not going to have, I'm still going to have to build myself up from zero. So I humbled myself a little bit with that crypto loss. So I was like, okay, the real world, right? This place teaches other forms of making money as well. So I'll look around a little bit, and maybe I'll actually listen to the professors for a change. So I looked around, and it's like, okay, copywriting. You can make money starting with $0. That's pretty good, right? I basically had zero. So I was like, okay, I'm fairly good at English. It's not my native language, but I'm quite comfortable in it, both in terms of speech and writing. So I was like, all right, once I make this decision, I'll commit to it. And then that's what I did. I chose copywriting, and I returned. I returned from abroad. Had a little bit of money left, but I went all in on copy, and I made that decision, and I made that sort of choice to commit and not quit until I'd replaced my income at the very least, which is what I managed to do.
And what is your native language? Is that something you're comfortable sharing?
Estonian, absolutely, yeah. It's Estonian.
Okay.
Little country in Northern Europe, a little bit over 1 million people, very small country. But yeah, that's kind of, it's a very small market as well. That's why I was attracted by the entire online game, is that if you have to sort of generate wealth from such a small market of 1 million people, it's like, in certain aspects you're still limited, but there's billions of people in the English speaking market online, right? There's so much more opportunity, so much more you can grab out there. Obviously there's certain advantages to this market as well, but for me, it's just the number of eyeballs out there of English speaking people is so much larger that I saw this as a massive benefit and upside to learning an online skill that I can monetize, essentially. So that's why I chose copywriting as well, from that aspect.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking of Estonia, relatively the money you earn would be quite a big deal in your country, right? Because I'm from Lithuania, so I know those like countries in Eastern Europe. Yeah, that's like a month's wage.
Yeah, no, certainly. This is why I'm guessing the 1K per month isn't like a massive win in terms of thousands of dollars, but for the amount of work that it took for me to like fulfill that 1K retainer that I retained with my client, it's basically like I can write, it's 8 emails. I can get that done in probably a half day's work. So that's probably 4 hours, 5 hours at most. And that is essentially like on like the lower, well, like a guy my age in his early 20s, like that's what like somebody working a 9-to-5 or some kind of waiter or cafeteria job would earn, like at their job per month, that is. So I'm basically earning the same amount of money that somebody else my age would earn from a month's wages from like a half day's worth of work. So I guess that's the comparable. And I have all this other time I can now invest into, increasing my income even further and onboarding a few more clients and upgrading those clients. And it's the way you can leverage your time in such a better way with online income and with an online skill set. It allows for so much more scalability and growth that it's truly tremendous. And it's great. It's truly, the freedom is the best thing. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but yeah, I managed to replace certainly. I guess I'll mention something real quick. I used to earn that same amount of money from a 9-to-5. I used to work back in like early 2021, like late 2020, 2021 for the most part of the year before I went abroad. And that's what I made per month. Working a 9 to 5 that was like outside in the cold in February, we get minus 15, minus 20 degrees Celsius weather, freezing away, trying to work on some kind of sewage system. It wasn't a time. I look back on it with a smile, but it's certainly not the most attractive job to work. But like comparably, like that's where the paradigm shift came for me. It's like I can earn the same amount of money that I previously earned from doing all that sort of crap and freezing out in the cold and dabbling in like dirt and like nasty residue for an entire month, so like 20 work days. And I can now get the same amount of money for like a half day's worth of work. It's like this completely blew my mind, and I'm kind of hooked now. Like once you get this sort of a win, like you can never go back to working a 9 to 5. It's like this world opens up in front of your eyes about what's possible online.
Yeah. And have you had any other clients as well?
Oh, yeah,
that you could
certainly.
share?
So I have NDAs with some of them. I can't share them specifically, but I recently put together a pretty long form sales page for a client, a female client that is. She's in the intimacy space. She hosts a retreat, an intimacy retreat, a few times throughout the year, and it's a very high ticket retreat. And we agreed on a revenue share deal on that. And we haven't like formally promoted it to her list yet, but we're about to do so with a New Year campaign. And it's the revenue share deal is quite hefty, and the retreat ticket is priced at the lower end is 3,500, and the mid sort of the average price is at about 5K. And for every sale, I get quite a hefty percentage. So I can basically I can expect to make an entire month's worth of income that we talked about earlier from just one sale out of that. And we're certainly expecting to see quite a bit of success with that over these next few weeks to a month that we're going to be promoting this quite actively.
Congratulations on that. Now, going back to the real world, what would you say about the material you learn, about the professors, compared to just doing it on your own and trying to find the same resources on the internet?
It's largely, if you try to do something on your own, you're dabbling quite a bit in the dark. And the largest benefit to the real world that is a tremendous amount of value for the money that you're paying is direct access to professors. So you can, these men, every single one of them are millionaires in their respective fields, right? And you can have direct access to them via chat rooms, and you can ask questions about your specific situation directly from them, which is, it's insight into your particular situation, and you can like leverage that information you get out of that to propel your own success forward. Because otherwise you might have to solve problems on your own. You might, obviously that's like an important part of the process as well. You have to like learn how to think and solve problems and like observe your situation and orient based on how things are going, and then act upon that as well. But asking for external output from people who have walked the same path as you and are further along the journey is a tremendous benefit. And these men, even for me, are still like way further down the road, and I can always turn to them with questions. I can always ask for insight into how I could handle this particular client, or handle this particular situation, or how I could negotiate this particular retainer, or solve this specific problem I have with like a piece of copy I'm writing, or whatever. And it's just, that's the highest amount of value I see, and it's truly a terrific way to propel your own growth and accelerate your own progress in whatever skill you're going to choose within the real world.
And what about the community aspect? Has that been beneficial to you?
Oh, it's awesome. It's like there's like if you ever felt this in real life, it's kind of different, but even online, it's like there's kind of a power that's in the air. There's like energy within the air when you have a certain quantity of men that are all on the same mission, pursuing the same goals. You're not alone. That's the most, I guess, fulfilling aspect of the community, is that a lot of the people within the real world are young men who have understood that they want something more out of lives, that they're not, that the route that society traditionally has laid out for them isn't really what's going to fulfill them most. Just working a 9 to 5, staying away for somebody else, going to university, paying tens of thousands of dollars for a degree. It might not be the most wise path to walk. You can see more fulfilling results quicker, and you might begin to alienate yourself from who you know in real life as you start to propel on your own journey and as you start to grow, because you're going to surpass your peers, and they're going to want to drag you down as you continue to grow and move forward. So unfortunately, you might have to leave them behind, which can leave you quite alone. But with this community, everybody else is on a similar path, and you can always feel part of a group. You always feel like you belong, that you're out there, that somebody else is just like you out there in a totally different part of the world, totally different background, different story, but a similar situation now with the same goals. And that can help you sort of stay on track and stay motivated to read about how other people are seeing success, how other people are trying to do the same things that you're trying to do and seeing results, so that you believe that it is possible. Because there will certainly be times when you feel like this won't be for you, but the community aspect of it, the inspiration you get from other students, like achieving the wins, achieving the results, other students being active in the chat, solving problems, maybe even mentioning that they're struggling as well, but they're not going to quit. That can give you that fuel, that can light that fire within you to keep going until you get that first win. And then you're seriously, once you get that first money in, then that's the moment when you're really hooked. And it is like a task. It is a daunting task to achieve, but once that comes, it's like, then the world opens up for you, like truly. Then you understand that yes, it is possible. Once you get that dialed in for yourself.
You've mentioned this briefly, but I'd like to see if there's more to go into here. How has the Wins channel affected you?
It's just,
or has it had an impact?
Certainly it affects you in several ways. I guess it all depends on how you frame it as well, and through what kind of a lens you view it. But on one hand, it could be a terrific amount of inspiration because you see other people doing the same thing you're doing and then seeing success, which makes you believe. But also there might come somebody who, might have been like behind you when you first started, that might have like had like the odds stacked against them more so than yourself. Maybe their English was worse, maybe their communication skills are off, but then they get a win that's bigger than yours. At that moment, you can either decide to be like most people out there. They can decide to be filled with hatred, with anger, with fury, and then they just begin, like, it turns into negativity and they don't do anything productive with it. It just consumes them, and then they end up quitting out of frustration. Or you can channel that frustration into a mindset that basically resembles something like, well, if this guy can do it, if this man can achieve it, who started later than me, who might not have the odds stacked as well as I do, if he can do it, why can't I? I have to be able to achieve this now. So it's kind of like you can leverage it in both ways, right? And you can use that. So again, it's all about how you use the information within the Wins channel. But the overarching sort of power of it is that it shows you what's possible in both sides of the spectrum. It can show you how much can be achieved, and it can be shown that basically anybody around the world, anybody who has an internet connection and the willingness to work hard, can make it work if they just persist and they refuse to quit. That's the power of it, for me at least.
And to clarify, that even applies to young people, right?
Oh,
No matter
dude,
how young you are.
I have paid attention to, so in the copywriting section, we have legions, like 4 different legions. And then in the legion that I'm in, there's a 13-year-old young man who recently just made his like first $500 online. And then we have like an experience section there where he can engage in like a high level discussion. I was really excited to go in there, engage in like the higher level discussions, because that's where he is at right now. And this guy is just crushing it. I mean, I think back to when I was 13 and I'm really inspired by this young man, for example, and that's just one guy. Like I see 14, 15-year-olds crushing it in there all the time, and this guy's 13, man. 13. I don't even want to think. I don't even want to think about what I was doing at 13, man. So that's truly inspirational, and it's tremendous. Yeah, it can totally work out for young men as well. It's all about owning the fact that you're young, because I like to put it this way, that whenever you approach, and it can be daunting, it can be quite frightening to approach like an adult with and ask them for money, because you're not really used to engaging with adults anyway, and if you are, it's in school, and there's like this really authoritative relationship you have with every adult in your life, including your parents and like the teachers in school or whatever, and then you have to like all of a sudden be at the same level or like a higher expert in comparison to the people you start to work with online. So that can be quite a daunting sort of a task to overcome. But if you approach it from like, hey, like if I hop on the sales call with this person, he's going to be more impressed with the fact that I'm young, because he's going to likely have either children or nephews of his own who all they do is like play Fortnite for days on end, fool around, watch TikTok, consume a bunch of random stuff online, don't really look to make money anytime soon or like pursue growth as individuals, because they're just living the typical lives of like young boys, which is just play and have fun, right? But I have this young man with me on a call who's clearly an expert in what he's talking about, who knows exactly what he's doing, who seems to have the solution to my problem. Like, I'm gonna be impressed, and I'm gonna give this guy a shot and see what he's got. Basically, is if I'm like a prospect and I've got to have a young man approaching me, and that's inspirational, man. And I've seen it happen multiple times by now.
Yeah. For people who are just starting out or thinking of joining, how long do you think it would take them to make their first piece of income, depending on how much time they put in per day?
Well, that's exactly it. It depends on how much time you put in per day, and it's like it's totally in your hands. It is totally up to you. I made my first money. Well, we'll talk about copywriting, because crypto was obviously a failure, but that was only because I didn't listen. If I'd listened, I would have made money sooner. But with copywriting, I made my first money about, I'd say, 3 weeks into my journey. I made about $400 out of a discovery project, which is like 8 times over to pay for the membership, which is a pretty good investment for like the first month in there. Might take some guys more than that, might take some guys less, but it's really about you coming in there and making a decision that this is what you're going to do and this is what you're going to commit to. Once you like go through the first part of the real world and you decide upon a skill, you get introduced to like a boot camp or like an introductory course, right? That's going to teach you about the skill and whatnot. And then it's going to be about relentless action. And I'm certain this has been implemented in other campuses as well, but in the copywriting campus, we have specific instructions on what students should be doing on a day-to-day basis, both inside of the boot camp and then once they graduate the boot camp in the Legion aspect. So once they actually start looking for clients, day-to-day actions they should be partaking in every single day to maximize the probability that they're going to see faster results on their journey. So if they took action, I would be surprised if during like their first month, like if they actually did all the things that we told them to do on a day-to-day basis, as soon as they join, I'd be surprised that if like in a month or a month and a half, they don't see results. Like, and then it's going to be like, you have to look at the individual's journey and what they're doing. But if they actually apply everything, then that's the time frame I'd be looking at.
Yep. For you personally, what was the biggest challenge you faced with copywriting when you first started out?
I guess it was about like, it wasn't really even the writing aspect. I had that quite well dialed in. It was about just, I guess it was a little bit related to what I talked about earlier. It was like asking somebody it was like doing the ask for money, like the sales part of it, which is what we teach and talk about as well, like as a part of the course. And that's something the course teaches guys how to do as well. But I guess that was really Yeah, it's kind of like that moment where you have to just break the chains in your mind, so like to 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 free yourself of the old frame of mind you have, or your thought process you have in terms of money. Because it's like, I remember on that first sales call, I was like tremendously nervous to actually ask for the money and ask for the project, because it was like, dude, I'm gonna ask for like nearly a half month's worth of my old wages for like a few hours worth of work, or like 3 to 4 hours worth of work. And it was like I couldn't believe that was a reality. I couldn't believe that was possible, but I just went ahead and I did it. And the guy said yes. And I was like, I remember hopping off that call and being like this, like, no way. Like, what just happened? Like, is this really possible? Like this. So I was like, it was, I went through like I don't know if the 5 stages of grief, but I certainly went through like a whole plethora of emotions. I was like, wait, so this is how money can be made. So why the hell hasn't anybody told me about this earlier? Why the hell am I being forced to go to university and study a degree for like years upon years on end, and like pay tens upon tens of thousands of dollars for an education that doesn't really even serve you in the work market? And like, why am I supposed to go to a job and get paid an hourly wage, like for pennies, when I can like make money like this? So I was like, it was a complete eye opener for me. So it was like understanding that and like adopting that frame of like having the courage to actually have the ask and like do the sale. I'd say that was like the first challenge I really had to overcome. But once you get those first few sales calls in, once you get those first few reps in, it's going to come far easier. Like, it's a muscle, right? It's just, you damage the muscle and it grows back stronger.
Great answer. So, what would be your top 3 biggest lessons that you've learned through your time in the real world?
Oh, there's plenty. I guess I'll pick 3. So first is one that I've mentioned already, which is like, decide this is how you're going to be and focus in on one skill. Don't dabble around. Don't try to do e-commerce and crypto and copywriting at the same time, because I mean, you're going to be spread so thin, you're not going to be really able to hone in on one thing. So that's certainly a thing. And we have a I don't know what the term is, like abbreviation or acronym, which is like FOCUS, means focus, which means follow one course until successful. So pick that one thing, decide this is who you're going to be, make it a part of your identity, make it a part of your deeper belief set that this is the person you are now. Even if it's your first day in the copywriting campus, now you're going to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm a copywriter. This is the man I am now. Because that's going to help you like stay committed to the journey and keep you from dabbling around with like other shiny objects that might distract you from this one particular skill set that you picked or chosen based on, what best suits your situation in terms of, your financial capabilities and your time. So focus on one thing. Then it's really about like shifting your sort of habits. This kind of relates to the first part as well, but it's like shifting your thinking from being a consumer to being somebody who produces and like puts content out into the world and shapes the world as it is. Because I know that I used to be, especially before the real world, I really used to be a guy who like consumed a lot of stuff. I mean, I used to watch YouTube videos for hours upon hours on end, listen to a lot of podcasts, and like just I really like to watch stuff and like consume. But I mean, that's not really what's going to bring money into your account, because like nobody's going to come knocking on your door or sending you an email if you're first starting out and being like, hey, here's $1,000 for a project, right? I mean, you're going to have to go out there on your own and find a way you can provide value for other people, and then provide some value for them in exchange for money in return. And the only way you can do that is by taking action, and by reading another book, watching another YouTube video, watching another podcast. I mean, it's not really going to be a possibility. So, I mean, that's the second thing I'd say is take consistent action, be persistent, and then don't be a consumer, be a producer. So take action, be a man of action. And then thirdly, what will it be? Let's say the third one is your most valuable resources aren't money, they're your time and your attention. So again, I guess it ties back to the first 2 points again, but it's like where you put your attention in, where you channel it, is what's going to grant you a slower or faster result than somebody else. Because we all have 24 hours in a day, right? Those of us that might be in their early 20s, right? There are early 20s guys online who are millionaires, and there are early 20s guys out there who don't have any kind of money. So obviously the guys who are millionaires have done something different with their time than those guys who are poor. Like, they've invested in their time in a better way. They've invested their time and attention in a better frame, or in a better way. So I would start to put a far higher value on my own time. I'd be very careful about who I spend my time with. I'd surround myself with people who bring me positive energy and believe in me and propel me forward and challenge me to become a better version of myself. I wouldn't hang out with people who drag me down. And I'd spend the vast majority, pretty much all of my time, on activities that would help me grow as an individual and help me see faster results in my own personal growth. So I guess all these three tie into one another. So I guess we can sum it up as, focus, choose one thing and stick to it, be a man of action, and value your time. I guess those are the 3 lessons there.
Mm-hmm. Now that you're on this trajectory after having joined the real world, where do you see your life heading in, let's say, 6 months to 1 year?
I mean, I'm certain it's going to get better. I'm on the right track. I'm surrounded by the right people. I'm surrounded by people who think similarly to myself. I've understood that I need to surround myself with a quality of men, so that I could, quality of people in general, so that I could be in the right environment that would help me prosper as an individual. So I'm certain it's going to get better. I'm certainly looking to improve my income still, improve my earning capabilities, improve upon my existing skill sets, become an even better marketer, an even better copywriter, become a better speaker, more competent individual, become stronger as well, more fit, more courageous, more bold in the moves I make and the risks that I take. So I see a bright future. I see growth, and I see progress. I'm not sure what the specifics are going to be. I can't give you like a certain client that I'm going to land, or I can't give you a specific number that I'm going to hit. I have goals certainly, but I know that the number is going to be higher than it is now. I know that I'm going to be a more capable man than I am now. I'm going to be more skilled. I'm going to be more competent, courageous, and I'm certainly going to be on a path to greater results and greater things in life as a whole, because I've made that first move. I've decided to take this risk, join. I made that first online money, and it's granted me a tremendous amount of freedom, and it's just about keeping on that journey, being grateful for what I have, being grateful for the opportunities that I do have, and at the same time always wanting more. I guess that's a healthy balance to have.
Mm-hmm. Now, to end off, since you're a non-native speaker, English speaker, what advice would you give to people in third world countries who also don't have English as their first language and might be reluctant to join in the real world, because to them the entry fee is quite large relative to how much they earn in their country? I know you've had a similar case, since Estonia is also not that good of an economy comparatively. Anyway, what would you have to say for that?
The way you begin to engage with other students is going to give you a lot of practice in your English already, because all the conversations we have are going to be in English inside of the real world. I would probably adopt a frame of mind with that would be something like, I would probably look to, I wouldn't make it a limitation of myself. I would understand that although like I might not have this as one of my benefits, or one of the things that's going for me, and my inability to perhaps have like 100% perfect grammar or have a pure, clean English accent when I speak. I mean, I'd use that as fuel. Again, it's all about how you frame things. I'd use that as fuel to be like, okay, you know, I might not have the ability to speak in a native language, right? In English, I might not have the best grammar. My punctuation or whatever might be a bit off, but I'm going to work harder than anybody else. That's what I'm going to have going for me. I'm going to outwork others. I'm going to do what it takes to see results. I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to continue to grow as I go along. So I'd be very active in the chats. I'd look to practice my English. You know, you're going to be surrounded by English resources already, but I guess if we take it back to consumption, you can consume like quality podcasts and information if you like commute, for example, from one place to another. So I wouldn't like, instead of listening to music, for example, I'd leverage that time when I'm like going from one place to another, or when I'm like going for a walk, for example. I probably look to listen to a podcast. Again, be very attentive to the English at hand, and like just surround myself with English as much as possible, so I think I could get comfortable in this environment. Because if once you're more comfortable around English as a whole, and once you understand it better, then it's going to translate into your writing and your speech as well. So I look to surround myself as much as possible with English, and decide that although I won't have the native English language going for me, I'm going to be a harder worker than everybody else that's American or English or Australian or whatever. I'm going to work harder than these people, and I'm still going to win. That's how I think.
Awesome. Now, where can people contact you if they're interested?
So I'm in the real world. I'm prominent in the copywriting campus. I'm Hilltop. I'm the commander of the Wolf Legion there. So it's one of the 4 legions we have in the copywriting campus. That's where I'll be dabbling around inside the real world. But in terms of social media, I'm on Instagram at the Chris Hilltop, and I have a YouTube channel as well where I share insights for how I guess these are lessons. I'm gonna have lessons coming up, not just about copywriting as well, but about sort of mindset in general for success. It's directed more so towards the Legion I'm leading in the copywriting campus, but it's open for public viewing, so anybody can look at those videos. So it's Chris Hilltop on YouTube, and then I'm might look towards kickstarting my Twitter as well. I'm I'm Chris Hilltop on Twitter as well, but mostly I'm going to be prominent on Instagram. So you can, if you have questions about joining or whatever, you can shoot me a DM there at the Chris Hilltop.
Great. If you're watching this on Rumble, to the viewer, all of the links will be in the description. So make sure to check that. Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. Once again, really appreciate your time. And I'm excited to do a part 2 in, let's say, 6 months to see how your progress has been. I hope you'll be down for that.
Totally. Yeah, let's do it, man. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
Great. All the best and goodbye.
Yeah, see ya.